Shanghai GDG is a very interesting developer community.
I'm glad somebody has asked this question.
This is where the magic happens.
This is primarily a question and answer show. So if any of you out there would like to ask questions.
Shanghai.
Hey, this is JJ Behrens along with Jarek Vikevich, and we have two guests today, Kieran Farr and Yang Li from Vidcaster, and this is YouTube Developers Live. Jarek, how are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Pretty good.
So you've been quite busy lately. I haven't seen you around. What have you been up to, JJ?
Yeah, well, I was talking to my wife, and she says, you're not a real developer. You just play one on TV. And so, I figured I should do something about that. And so I started releasing the backlog of open source projects that I have.
Cool. So tell me more. What have you released lately?
Yeah, so I released 3 projects. The first one I worked with Jeffrey Posnick on, and it's called Party Playlist Picker. It's a Google App Engine application written in Python that allows you to collaboratively edit a playlist. So it's pretty neat. You have a bunch of people that are going to go to a party, and they're logged in on separate computers, and they're editing the same playlist, and you can see updates in real time from each of them.
Cool. Did you use client libraries or straight through
I did.
REST?
I used the Python client library, which is unfortunately still using version 1 of the API,
That's
but
cool.
It'd be nice to update that.
Yeah.
And so the next one, I built a PHP project called Fikokov, and it takes a lot of concentration to even pronounce that. It is not the best name in the world, but it is just a proof of concept of how to use PHP OAuth 2, the newest client library from the newer Google APIs, along with CodeIgniter and the YouTube CodeIgniter code library, client library. And so the way I came up with the name is I took all of those words and then I just randomly pulled letters and shoved them together and threw in a few vowels. Yeah.
Wow. So let's see. Python, PHP. So what will be your next programming language that you're going to write in?
So the next project that we released is Quasimodo, and we, of course, we had a tutorial about that before Google I/O, and that's written in Ruby on Rails. And then finally, we have a project that I haven't yet released, but I'm going to release, built in Android, using the new YouTube Player API for Android, and I'm excited about that. We announced that at Google I/O, and I'm hoping to release that code as soon as I can.
Cool. So it sounds like every week you use a different programming language?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't mention the other one that was written in Dart, but, I'm a Dart guy.
Let's
so.
see. So there are 52 weeks in the year. Are there enough programming languages for you? Or
Well,
you're going to have to repeat yourself, JJ?
Yeah, well, actually, Haskell takes 2 weeks because I have to work up to it. Haskell's not so easy.
What about Lisp? I mean, there's a lot of parentheses,
Scheme.
so maybe that'll take even longer.
Lisp works for me, or at
Is
least
there an
Scheme.
SDK or API for Scheme or Lisp?
No, but if you're a Lisp programmer, you don't need a client library. That's just the way they roll.
We'll accept change requests, though. I mean, if you're willing to submit some CLs, then these are open source libraries. So
I keep joking about the fact that the only reason why we can't get a COBOL client library is because we can't find an intern who could code in COBOL. And I refuse to code in COBOL. I mean, I have my limits.
We'll fix that, JJ.
Yeah, well, maybe next time.
Wow, so that's pretty exciting, JJ.
That's pretty fun. So, I'm kind of sad that Jeffrey Posnick couldn't make it here today. Why couldn't he make it?
So apparently, the code season has officially started already on the East Coast.
I thought that people at Google were immune to viruses.
Well, they are immune to computer viruses apparently, but not real viruses.
Oh,
so
I see.
Yeah, so we have lost Jeff for this week. He'll be back next week, and this is when we're going to discuss the very interesting issue of API quotas. So for those of you that are expecting this coverage today, unfortunately, we have to disappoint you. A virus got in the way.
Yeah.
I know Jeff is watching us this morning, so hi, Jeff. Hope
Is he still answering email?
Probably predicting what people are going to ask.
Probably,
and answering them proactively. Next to a box of Kleenex, I suppose.
Yeah.
So we'll cover that next week. Instead, we'll chat a little bit about our brand new branding guidelines.
That's pretty exciting.
So we have a bunch of resources for developers that would like to use our branding in their applications, and this question comes up every once in a while. So now I think we have much better set of tools and guidelines. But first, I think we will talk to our guests here.
Yeah. tell us about Vidcaster.
Great. So maybe you'll start with you, Kieran. So Kieran is the founder and CEO of Vidcaster.
Yeah.
And I have a tricky question for you to start.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I read in New York Times
Uh-huh.
that you have actually bootstrapped the company while driving a cab in San Francisco.
That's correct.
Is that true?
That's absolutely true.
So what kind of driver are you? Are you a laid-back cab driver? Are you one of those, fast?
Well, it's funny because when I first started driving a taxi, my girlfriend at the time, she told me, Kieran, you drive way too slow. You're too good of a driver. You should not be a taxi driver. And over the 3 years of bootstrapping the company and driving a taxi, I eventually got to the point, and I'm sure Jane can testify here, where I drive like a madman. So there's something in the occupation itself that inspires you to adapt these driving habits that aren't necessarily the safest.
San Francisco is the only place in the world that I've ever been where I've gotten Oracle DBA advice from my cab driver.
It's pretty remarkable. The sort of characters that you see driving taxis in San Francisco can be very wide.
Apparently.
But it was a good experience. And that's probably a good kind of segue to how we started the company.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, so we actually started Vidcaster as a completely different project, and I think this is the sort of theme that you see a lot in startups. And around 2008, we wanted to create a local TV station, and we actually partnered with the San Francisco Chronicle, other top blogs such as the SFist and SF Appeal, other local TV stations like Coffee TV, and we brought in a consortium of students who are recent graduates of videography programs at different universities, and essentially we partnered with the traditional reporters of these outlets to create video content with them. And so as we did this, we realized that most of the problems with our workflow were not around the production of the content. I have a lot of experience producing local TV. I knew how to make that a templatized process.
How so? Did you do that in school, or where did you pick that up?
So actually, as young as middle school, I started doing live TV broadcasts similar to
from
this sort of thing from our middle school. We did the announcements in the morning at our middle school.
Oh, wow.
And then in high school, we had a nice TV studio where we did a live sports show every morning. We had one of the best basketball teams in the state, so there was a lot to report on.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so I had all this production experience, and I said, well, we can make our own TV station. I think that local TV in America especially has a lot of problems. It's just all about violence and politics and this investigation about why Lysol is going to kill your children tonight at 11. And I thought, there's a better way we could do this. So we had a great process for creating content, but it was much more difficult to then streamline this process to make it easy for these reporters and producers who have limited time to be able to upload this content, have what was most important at the time was a destination video site. In other words, to have a location where viewers can go. This property was called vidsf.com, and this is the concept that we like to call a video site. In other words, it's a website around which all of the content is oriented around video.
Like YouTube.
Like YouTube. YouTube, of course, is a great example. But if we kind of look a little bit wider, Netflix is a video site.
Uh-huh.
That concept is something that exists already, and a lot of humans, the viewers, don't necessarily categorize it in their brain. But when we look at what these elements are, at the end of the day, they're templatizable structures that are a video site. So you have an index page where you have featured content. You have playback pages where you play back the video. You have for example, episode or show landing pages where it organizes all that content. So anyway, getting back to the story here, we had to create all of this infrastructure from scratch. And we tried calling up some of the paid OVPs at the time. These are Brightco, Vuyala, some of the larger names. And we said, here's what we want to do. Can you help us with this? And they said to us, well, we'll give you a video player object, but you guys are responsible for the rest of the show. Well, the rest of the show is the meat of this technical development. And so we started writing our own solutions. After about a year, this brings us to around 2010, we had so much interest in the actual software tools that we had written that it was clear to us that we would be able to make a much better business by selling the software instead of trying to continue to create this content. So that was around 2010, and that's what led the initial development Vidcaster, and we got our first beta clients, which was Airbnb and Indiana University, and we helped build that out with them. And then that eventually brought us to the point where we were able to join an accelerator called 500 Startups that really started the development of this as a company around this software as well.
What was your number in 500?
What number were we? I would just guess like maybe 160 or something like
Okay.
this. I know they're getting close.
Is that a
to
lucky
like,
number?
Yeah, hopefully.
Cool.
That was a good experience as well.
Great. So you've been working on the product for a couple of years now.
Now it comes to about 4.5 years. I was driving a taxi all the way through a year and a half ago. And once we were able to join 500 Startups, they gave a little bit of investment, which was enough to get me outside of the taxi. And really then that was the beginning of building a true company. In other words, Jang joined our company at the same time. We are very technology focused. So as you can tell by the way I described this, we were really trying to solve all these technology problems. And what we learned in the real world of startups is that you can build a great product and you can solve all these problems, and I'll show you all the cool things that we do. But the next step as a company is sales and marketing and creating a repeatable sales process around this product. And that's what I joke is my MBA trial by fire that I've received over the past year and a half of running a company.
Great, but you had some experience dealing with cash and doing
I've had
basic accounting and things
exactly,
like that.
I think I had a little bit of
Crown
experience.
Vic or whatever it is that you're driving.
Good question. So the cool part is that I worked for a taxi company that had tons of hybrids on the fleet. So I got to drive everything from, of course, the Toyota Prius to Nissan Altima hybrid.
I see.
All sorts of fun stuff.
Great. So how about a little demo, and then maybe we'll talk about some of the technical challenges.
Totally.
I know JJ is dying to ask Jang some tricky questions.
Yeah, so I'll turn the computer over here to Jang. While Jang's working on this, I'll give a little bit of a description of kind of what we're looking at here. So what this is Vidcaster powered by YouTube. At its core, what Vidcaster lets you do is create a video site. So what Jang is doing here is logging in and granting access through OAuth, and I'm sure that JJ will have some questions about how we implemented this. Now what it's doing is actually connecting to YouTube, and it's retrieving a list of that video content. And what we do at Vidcaster is abstract that metadata into a unified format. And what we'll talk about in a second is that this allows us to work with any number of third-party video platforms. Of course, YouTube is one of the most popular on the planet, so that's one of the first ones that we started to work with. And so what this will do then is create, for example, thumbnails, total running time, all the sorts of video-related metadata that you would want when you're organizing a video site. And we try to do this as quickly as possible, and Jang can talk at length about how we've been optimizing our process for this. And so then what this brings you to, this is what we call our onboarding process. And this does a live preview of what your video site would look like. And now we have close to a dozen designer themes. We work with designers on a regular basis, creating more and more of these. In fact, we'll talk a little bit later about, we have a whole templating language around Vidcaster, very similar to a WordPress, but made specifically for multimedia. And we're actually holding a theming contest that will start in a few weeks with some cash prizes to get developers to join the fun here.
So the use case here is, say, I am a bed and breakfast, and I want to have an awesome site because I am right on the beach and I have beautiful bedrooms.
Yep.
And so I would basically do what?
So then you could, if you have existing videos in your YouTube account, you can instantly start this process, choose a theme that's from our pre-built theme garden, and then customize that logo and choose a URL. And there's two different ways that people use this. They either use it, one, as their entire website, or two, they use this what we call a video subsite. Very similar in spirit to a blog, how a blog lives in a subdomain. We suggest to our users to use either tv.domainname.com or video.domainname.com. And this is a practice that we've been seeing, not just Vidcasters pushing for this, but companies like Adobe, for example, have really used video on a branded subsite. So tv.adobe.com is a great example. And they put literally dozens of hours of content. A lot of it is around support, how to use their products. And this serves both as marketing and sales material, but of course also support and training material, which both really kind of serve for the same purpose. And at the end of the day, they're trying to get more people to use Adobe.
Cool. So
software.
I interrupted your demo flow here. Apologies for that. Let's go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so then this dumps you out into our dashboard. And this dashboard, again, is meant to abstract, regardless of the video player system you're using, to have a unified set of analytics, content management control, And we've been doing implementations lately that combine as many as 5 different online video platforms. And I can show you an example in a few minutes here. We worked on a project with MIT where we combined the YouTube player with Bright Cove's player and Kaltura's player and the Vimeo player and our own white label player into one cohesive interface for both their content managers, but then also for their viewers, so that they don't have to worry about the complexities of these different APIs.
Do you find that this is a pretty common use case where people have content all over the place? And
yeah, this is something that we're finding more and more with larger companies. And to be clear, anybody can sign up for a Vidcaster account for free. Our free plan is powered by the YouTube player. And then for larger companies with more complex needs, that's where we help them, because we have all these integrations already existing, and it helps them get to market very quickly with whatever solution they're looking for. And what we find typically is that companies all around the planet have videos all over the place, but they don't know it. So a really common problem is that, let's say, the tech team put up a bunch of tutorial videos and they really liked Vimeo. Their marketing team put up a bunch of videos up on YouTube, on their YouTube channel. Other folks took videos at a party, they put it up on Facebook. This other department has a contract, let's say the internal training department has a contract with Kaltura because they've been good about marketing, about education. And then at the end of the day, you have this nightmare from a management perspective of what do you do with all these assets? And are these assets actually driving business or accomplishing the objectives that we have, whether it's reducing support queries, whether it's increasing our number of leads, increasing revenue? And the reality is that nobody knows. And this is something that almost every single organization has this problem. And when we look at how do we solve this problem, it's not about a video player. A video player is part of this problem, but that is kind of one of these tools. And really it's about collecting all this stuff into one solution to then, at the end of the day, give management this sense of, yes, these videos across our YouTube channel and on Facebook and on Vimeo are indeed driving people to have this behavior or this post-viewing behavior that we value. And that's what we believe is what we call closing that loop and finally helping companies realize that what we believed all this time is that video has a huge amount of value for the enterprise, but it's hard to quantify that, and it's often very difficult for them and the accounting team to say, you know, it's worth it for us to be spending all this money on producing tutorial videos. It's worth it for us to be producing this sales and marketing material and customer testimonials. But connecting those dots has been a very big challenge for enterprises.
Speaking of which, so can they track conversion? Like, say, I go to my, one of these video sites and watch the video and click on a buy now link or something like that. Is that reflected in your analytics? Like, how do they actually know that what you just said is actually true, that they should invest in content?
When we work with our larger clients, what we'll do is that we'll usually interface with their customer relationship management software, or CRM. So common ones, of course, are Salesforce or Marketo. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones. HubSpot is another common one. And a lot of what this is really turning viewers into leads and tracking, okay, once that viewer has supplied their email address, then how do they fall into that funnel? So that's where our philosophy is, that we don't want to build every single tool, and we try to combine all these things together into one easy package, and that's kind of our ethos. So then we'll leverage the Salesforce or the Marketo or HubSpot installation that enterprise has to do that reporting and analytics.
Yeah. So finally, a very tricky question. So do you think that video improves the conversion?
Let me think about this. Well, the obvious answer is yes. And if we want to be kind of high-level hippie about this, video is moving pictures, and it's one of the most effective mediums that humans have invented. And it's undeniable that it's a powerful medium. And I think that what's really been missing is connecting the loop or closing the loop. And finally, we're getting to the point where we can see that and we can actually quantify that. And that's what gets us really excited, because we can finally say, hey, this is working. And even if it's a small percent in the single digits of traffic that's coming to their main property, that traffic still converts at a very high level. It's very relevant. If you're looking for tutorial videos on how to use an Arcane server product, there's a very high chance that you're going to want to purchase that product. So I think that what we're really seeing now is finally, after all this time, the data and the evidence that's supporting our intuition that we've had for a long time.
Great. Yeah. So shall we look under the hood?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you were talking about some of the companies you've integrated with, and I know, some people out there might not know the video landscape as well as you guys do. So can you tell us, like, all the companies you've integrated with and what each of those companies provides for the users?
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have time to go over all of them, but I can give you a sense of kind of the big categories.
Yeah, categories would be fantastic.
So one of the main categories is what we call the player object. And this kind of goes back to my belief that a player object, whether we're talking about the YouTube player, that's what I would define as a player object, or other third parties. And there's now on the market, I'd say, roughly 60 to 100 different
60
player-only online video platforms out there. And what they usually provide is a white label, brandable video player object. And so we've done integrations now, I'd say, with about 10 total of these.
10, wow.
And that number keeps growing as we do more and more projects. So that's one category. Another big category would be third-party social network distribution. So this is taking this content and then pushing that out to the common folks you hear about, Facebook, Twitter, other third-party platforms like that. Analytics is another really big category. Of course, there's the standard players in there like Google Analytics or Omniture. What we're seeing more and more is, like I mentioned before, analytics plugins that have a relation to the customer relationship database.
Yep.
So this is Salesforce, HubSpot, etc. We see things like Mixpanel or Kissmetrics or other sort of third-party tracking systems that our clients are using. And then there's this really new category of what I would call interactivity layers on top of video. And there's a number of startups around this. I'd say that there's at least a dozen or 2 dozen startups that have varying types of interactive video technology. And for them, it's for our customers, it's exciting to be able to have all these different options to be able to say, okay, I want to be able to click on this dress and buy this dress, or I want to be able to, have social comments in the timeline and link out to that. So we've done a couple integrations on that end. It's a little bit difficult, to be honest, because there are so many startups out there that are doing this. It's hard to find a standard, and we've been looking out there for a standard. I know that Mozilla is working with Popcorn.js is one sort of standard that's kind of somewhat seeming to gain traction in the sense that it's timeline-based interactivity for generic player objects.
Okay.
Another category we've been doing integrations with is open source video players.
Yep.
So we've had an integration with the JW player for quite a while. We've been working with the team over at Video.js. That's been an interesting player because it actually supports, for example, YouTube as a playback layer beneath it. That's also very interesting because Vidcaster at that point kind of serves as this cloud-based player that has an updating open source player, and then our customers can choose to use their own CDN. So that would be another category where a lot of our customers will have existing CDN relationships. They'll want to plug in, for example, they have an existing contract with Akamai, or they have literally a server on premise that they want to use to serve this video content. So then we connect all these dots and help them connect all these things together in one place.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you're serving video from so many places, including the big guys as well as local. So, integrating all of those is kind of interesting. So my favorite question is, what'd you guys write it in?
We wrote everything in Django.
Oh, Django! Wow, crazy.
Yeah, we've enjoyed Python and Django as a great framework and language combination. I started writing, of course, this code back in 2008 when I was driving the taxi. We have a joke around the office that is taxi code because it was very utilitarian and functioned. But now poor Jang and the rest of the dev team are kind of dealing with that technical debt and bringing that code base up to speed. So, for example, I know you're going to ask some questions about our API integrations. And this is something I did like 2 years ago, for example, for our initial YouTube integrations. And it's definitely time for an update. I want to say that we were using, for example, on the Python library side, it was a 1.0 library, but we were kind of hacking it to access some 2.0 sort of features. Because not all of them were built into that class necessarily, but you could still kind of access it.
Thankfully that situation's going to get a lot better with version 3 of the API with, completely up-to-date client libraries.
Oh, cool.
Life is going to be much better.
Yeah, that'll be really helpful.
But I feel your pain.
Yeah.
The other problem we had was we tried to get all that viewership data from YouTube, and one of the big thing is like the viewership, right? So we had to use the Insight API and download a lot of zip files for each other client, and that generally takes a while. So when I heard about the new analytics API, I was pretty excited.
Yeah, that's going to solve a big pain point.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really hung up on this idea of you writing Python while driving a cab, and like the fact that you said that your cab driving skills were originally very orthodox and then went towards the sloppy, and I'm thinking of Python indentation. Now, I'm just imagining at the beginning of the project, everything was 4-space indents, and then towards the end of the project, it's like 3-space indents and 2-space indents, and it's like,
well, it's funny you mentioned that. That has been something that Jang has brought up, is we need to go back to the code base and make sure that we have unified indentation.
Yeah, well,
and especially when people start using tabs, and you're just like, what's a tab?
What's a tab? So that's pretty funny. So you guys, do you guys have plans to switch to version 3 of the API? Have you thought about it? I mean, of course, we have to wait for it to fully come out, but, will you guys make the switch to save a lot of pain?
Definitely on the analytics side. We're getting close now to about 7,000 video sites that are powered by YouTube. And for each of those sites, you can imagine that there's a lot of synchronization that happens on a regular basis. So one of those synchronizations is, of course, analytics data. Another important synchronization is, of course, based around the actual content. Has somebody uploaded new content? And what I can show you here is a demo of how some of our customers use this. And maybe that'll be helpful. In fact, if we can switch to this, this is a great example of how one of our customers, who was also one of our investors, 500 Startups, integrates Vidcaster into their website. So this is their main website at 500.co. And when you click on the video tab, this actually leads to a website that is hosted by the Vidcaster system. So it's really important to understand that part of Vidcaster's value is actually hosting the website itself that has all this video content embedded. Now, all of this stuff, of course, matches the branding of the main site. The only reason you know it's another server is that it's on a subdomain, which we named. And then this provides all of the navigation elements, things and conveniences such as most viewed this week, all sorts of preview things. And what I'd like to do now is kind of show you, we'll press play and you can look at one of these play pages. These are all customizable. I'm going to pause this for a second. And so you can customize everything here. For example, you can work with all sorts of third-party commenting system. This is another category to add to that list. So there's Facebook comments, Livefire comments.
Discuss.
Yep, exactly. And so
another Django app, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Our friends over there at Discuss. So what I wanted to show you is how they made this site. And so what they did is that they started with a very basic layout, the basic rotator. And we have close now to about a dozen different themes. A lot of them are mobile friendly. They uploaded a logo. They uploaded a favicon, did a little bit of CSS. But one of the most powerful things that we're excited to show off is what we call custom HTML. And what this is the ability that within the cloud, we have a cloud-based code editor to actually edit the templates for these themes.
Wow.
And this is where you get very powerful customization. And what we built this on is on top of the Django built-in templating system, we have introduced a series of convenience functions for dealing specifically with multimedia content. So one of the best examples I like to show is, for example, this function right here, fetch thumbnail URL for a given object, which is in this case a lead item, and you can specify the width and height of that image. The reason why this starts to become so powerful is that you can imagine if you're a larger company and you have 5 different video player systems, each one of those actually has a completely different API for fetching a thumbnail. And as small as this task sounds, when that creative agency is trying to create this site that combines all these things together, just that one function of getting these preview images turns out to be a big pain in the butt. So this starts to put that layer of abstraction on top of this CMS made specifically for video content so that this is an easily repeated automatable process for the organization.
Great. So you guys host videos as well?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have what we call our white label cloud-based player. Now, this is an interesting, if we want to get a little bit about the world of online video, my core belief, frankly, is that video objects are turning into a commodity. There are some that have great infrastructure behind them, and I think YouTube specifically obviously has a great CDN infrastructure. And when you start
have a
talking
couple
about
servers.
You have a couple servers.
2 or 3.
And when you start talking about the video objects ecosystem, really all that you're talking about now is the latency of play to first byte. Everything else is easily repeatable, whether we're talking about the Chrome controls over this, plugins for advertising. So anyway, I interrupted you.
No. That's so you have white label.
Correct.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So one of the things about using a web API that can sometimes be challenging is doing testing. And so a lot of people decide not to do testing. What approach did you guys take?
So we have basically many servers that we do development on. We have essentially staging servers, so where developers have their own developer server, and then we push everything into a staging server. We have basic tests that we run on the staging server. We do pushes every Thursday.
Every Thursday.
Yeah.
The day after YouTube.
Yeah, well, essentially, this way, when we're developing, we're actually developing in that same server environment because, like you're saying, we do interact with so many third-party services, and then when we push things to staging, that's an exact replica of our production environment, so we can see everything from, how do the load balancers affect forwarding of IP addresses for our analytics system or whatever.
Great. So, can you tell us... let me see. Anything kind of interesting, looking back, now that you've spent so much time developing this software, what are the things that kind of surprised you? What are the things that you wish you could tell yourself and go back in time? By the way, we have a Project X project for that. Maybe.
Nice. I would say one of the things that's very surprising to me is not necessarily about the technology, but about running a company and having a software product, and that is that the things that customers find most valuable sometimes have no correlation with the difficulty of programming it.
Yes.
So, for example, very complicated syncing technology on the back end that we have for all these third-party OVPs, that's cool and that's necessary. That's something that takes some time to sell that. However, this sort of technology that we've made for letting people edit the templates sort of structure, that didn't take us a huge amount of time to develop compared to the syncing technology. But this is something that people really value. And it's surprising to see that, just because you slave away at this one thing or this feature, it's not necessarily that that's going to be what brings you forward. And for me, it's been a humbling experience over the past year to realize that we really need to have an ongoing dialogue with our user base to understand what is most valuable to them.
Yeah, that's that age-old thing where, non-developers only care about the things that they can see. I mean, if they can't see it, they just don't care that much.
Yeah, and things like, having these custom themes for people to be able to choose from existing themes, that's been really, really popular. And again, that's not necessarily a coding thing. We're not sitting in the basement, writing out all this new stuff. That's working with awesome designers and contractors from around the globe, creating cool stuff.
Excellent. Yeah. So Jarek, I
have one more question to these guys before we let them off the hook. So, what you have been showing is web. Now, what about the brave new world of mobile? What do you see your customers doing in that space?
It's a great question. So we have a couple different ways that customers use us with their mobile applications. Probably the best way that we're moving toward is that everything we do is HTML5 responsive design. So about half of our themes now are true responsive design, where it actually can change the look and feel and layout of that theme as it's used on different devices. And then we also have a basic API that works across different players as well, that allows our clients to create mobile applications that will pull from this API, and depending upon the player, then can use, for example, the YouTube SDK in an iOS app, or HLS if they want to be delivering stuff directly from one of their servers. Another really exciting thing we've been working on now is, in partnership with the Google TV team, we're working on a couple apps for clients using the new YouTube SDK for Android. So we're excited to get a couple of those off the ground, and those should be coming out in the next few weeks. And that's been an exciting process because we're seeing a lot higher adoption of users by Google TV because it's actually being embedded into new televisions that are being released by manufacturers. So instead of having this extra box, it's something that's just literally built into the TV, and at that point, everything's ready to go, and you just navigate your remote to these apps, and it's pretty exciting.
Cool, great.
Yeah.
Nice that you were covering that.
I love this kind of squirrely question, and it's a little bit strange, but, you guys think about video a lot, right? Like, this is your life. So what do you think we're going to see, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, and 50 years from now?
Well, I'm not sure if we're all going to be humans 50 years from now, so maybe we'll leave that one out. But I think what's really interesting coming down the line are projects.
That's not funny at Google. I mean, we get enough board jokes as it is.
I think that, for example, the whole concepts of Google Glass and heads-up mounted displays really continued to accelerate the adoption of video. So for example, having cues that I know that at this intersection, when I'm walking down the street, that this can trigger a couple options for me to see anything from, well, here's the cool place to go for a cup of coffee. And because recording a video is so easy now on all of our mobile devices, it's just becoming so pervasive. So I think that the new mobile in a few years will actually be how do we interact with that with our heads-up displays. And that's, again, just accelerating this growth of video. It's not just incrementally. Like, that's just a whole new area. Yeah.
Excellent. So Jarek, I'm peeking over at your laptop. It looks like we have a lot of questions lined up in the moderator.
We have quite a few questions, but maybe first we will chat briefly about some of the new branding resources.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, available. Let's talk branding.
So let me just cover that. So for those of you that care, we have been providing powered by YouTube logos that can be embedded in your applications. Now, the resources that we had in place were created several years ago, so that was really before the explosion of mobile. We were on the previous page, we were actually showing how to best integrate the YouTube logo into a DVD player, so that was kind of state of the art at the time. I'm sure you guys have or used to have one of those. Yeah. So the world has changed significantly. So what we've done is we have revamped the branding resources so that if you're a mobile application developer, we actually have YouTube branding that you can use in your mobile application. We also made it a little more clear about when you can use which logo, because that wasn't really well covered in the previous version of the document. So maybe let's switch to the page that has these resources, and I will just quickly walk you through it. And again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to ping us or ask it on the developer forum. But what we have made available is a set of guidelines that help you identify, first of all, which logo you can use. And there's actually two different ones that we are making available, the Powered by YouTube logo and the actual YouTube logo. The way to understand the difference when you can use one versus the other is very similar to what we have previously captured in our monetization guide. So if your application is actually built entirely around YouTube and it really relies on the YouTube content to the point where if you remove the YouTube content, the application is no longer useful, then we would like you to use the Powered by YouTube logo. If YouTube is one of the features of your application, so you're integrating YouTube content, but you're adding additional content, additional data sources, and so forth. So say if you remove the YouTube functionality, the app is still largely functional, then you can use the standard YouTube logo. And we have a couple of examples. For example, if say you're a game developer and you're integrating a YouTube uploads capability, if you take it away, we would obviously be sad, but the app will continue working, and the gamers will continue playing games. So it's okay in that case to use the standard YouTube logo. We do have a couple of things that we would like you to not do. For example, build an app that is just like YouTube and it doesn't really add any additional functionality. And then on top of that, we discourage you from actually calling it YouTube, because then it will just lead to confusion. So there's some of these things that are, I think, fairly straightforward, written in plain language. So hopefully you will be able to go through this and understand. And then the part that we also made a little more easy is, if you're actually looking for the assets, they are right here. So we have the EPS AI files that you can download and scale to fit your application needs. Another type of logo that we're also providing is the stack logo. So this is something that our mobile developers have been asking for quite a while, saying, hey, I'm building a mobile application. The horizontal layout is really not doing it for me because of my user experience. So while we prefer that you use the standard YouTube logo, because this is what the users are familiar with, we are also making the stacked YouTube logo available for you, and you can fetch that from the site. So the URL is, as you can see, developersgoogle.com/YouTube/branding. And if you have any questions about these guidelines, please let us know.
Great.
All right. And now we have received a bunch of questions, so perhaps we should just switch over to the moderator and cover some of them. The first one is around annotations availability. When will we have annotations available for mobile? No ETA right now, I think obviously mobile is a big focus, and I wasn't able to ping our product manager, who was actually flying in from London this week. If you would like to learn more about kind of what's the vision for YouTube mobile, I would like to encourage you to watch our presentation from Google I/O, where Andre, who is our product manager, actually covered his goals for this year. And the title of the session is YouTube API for content curators, creators, and consumers. So you can look it up, and we will chat with him to see if this is something that they have any plans for. Typically, we don't actually announce specific dates before functionality becomes available, but obviously mobile is a big focus for us.
Yeah, it's a shame that you weren't able to get an answer to that, because I noticed that you were able to email the PM during the talk while we were focused in on the screen, and it wasn't for lack of trying. I know that it was only the PM that doesn't respond as quickly as you do.
There is no YouTube live developer show without JJ making a joke about me emailing. That's a must. The second question we had was around availability of some of the YouTube features that we make available for partners. So, for example, YouTube live streaming, which is what we're using right now, it's currently not available for everyone on YouTube. So if you're a YouTube partner, you can actually have access to this functionality. It is not rolled out to all the partners as far as I know. So there are some restrictions, some geographic considerations, and so forth. So the way to approach that, if you are a YouTube partner, just chat with your partner manager. So typically, partners have a resource that is made available for them for any kind of partner questions, and they should be able to give you a better guideline about what is available or when it might become available, or what needs to happen for you to actually have access to this functionality. In the meantime, you're welcome to use Hangouts on Air. This is something that uses the YouTube live streaming infrastructure for the live streaming part, works quite well. So beyond that, I think we'll probably refer you to your partner manager.
And of course, Google plus Hangouts have an API, which is really exciting. So you can do all kinds of interesting things.
The next question is, will we see an iOS YouTube app soon?
Ooh, I want to answer this one.
Yeah, so what I did this morning is I was basically running around trying to find somebody who would answer this question. And everybody basically refused to talk to me. So I couldn't get a straight answer out of anyone. However, I did find one person whose name is Matt, and he works in YouTube PR. And he told me that, and he was keeping a straight face, and he told me that we are working with Apple to offer the best possible YouTube iOS experience. So this is as
100% true.
As I was able to get. So what do you think, JJ? Did I do well, or is it disappointing?
That is 100% the truth.
All right. So unfortunately, that's all we can cover today.
Sorry about that.
Then there's a question about video ratings, where someone can dislike a video, but like is not working using the API. What we would like is maybe ideally some logging information, if you could just post it on our forum. It's strange. I don't think we are preventing liking videos.
It might be interesting to see the HTTP response coming back from the service to see if there's figure out what's going on there.
Or did we just release a downer video feature and you can only dislike it? You can't like it?
The world is becoming more cynical on a daily basis.
It's a feature, not a bug.
So please let us know. Give us a little more information. Ideally, the video ID, we can try it ourselves and see if this is a bug or there's something with the request that is not quite right. There was a question about the PlayStation implementation. Can we add like and dislike button on the YouTube PlayStation 3
Can you
app?
get that done before lunch, please?
Yeah. So we just launched that yesterday, I think.
Wow.
Right. So it's nice that folks are paying attention. I have actually passed that feedback to our product manager for the PlayStation app. She has actually posted the announcement on the PlayStation site yesterday, and I actually shared it on my G+ stream. So we will definitely relay it, and if we have an update, we'll cover that.
Thanks for the suggestion.
And then there was a question about the ability to add more than 19 playlists on the main channel page.
This is because we're using newer machine architectures that are, 5-bit, right?
Yeah. So that's a good answer. Okay, next question.
Yeah, we're sorry about that. What's our wrong answer?
So no, again, I wasn't able to get an answer out of our product manager who's responsible for that. I'm not sure if this is a user experience design limitation or just we thought no one would actually want to have more than this many playlists.
Yeah.
Although given that there's actually playlists have limited sizes, I think we're still up to only 200 entries, right?
Yeah.
Then it kind of makes sense for channels that have a lot of content. We'll check that.
But I definitely saw you send an email to the PM, so hopefully, that's good feedback.
Another question is, when will we be able to pin channels on the new YouTube mobile app? So if by pinning you mean the same thing that is actually available in Google Play, this is something that to a certain extent is available today. It's not offline viewing, but you can in fact configure your app to prefetch some of your subscriptions. There's some conditions. I believe that the app has to be the phone has to be on Wi-Fi, and you have to have your power plugged in. So the use case here is, at night your phone synchronizes the information that it's needed, so that during your daily commute you can just play it right off your SD disk. Again, this is something that Andre covered during our Google I/O session.
I seem to remember this during the keynote, maybe.
It was mentioned during the keynote,
Okay.
and then Andre actually went a little more detail during our presentation. So I will post that. As far as kind of complete offline access, I'm not aware of any plans. I think it will be rather difficult to even implement that.
Yeah.
Because of some of the way in which our player works.
Yeah.
The next question is, could see a live video on a cell phone Android? I think if this is a question, the way I understand it is whether this is actually possible, and the new YouTube Android Player API that we have pre-announced at Google I/O actually has this capability. So if you were at Google I/O and you actually downloaded the Google I/O app to watch any of the live streams, we were in fact using the YouTube Player API. So this is a little known secret that the app itself was using it. It was a very early version, but we're actually using that API. So we are actually hoping that this is something that will be supported. There's some restrictions around which versions actually have the capability. So I don't think it's going to go back as far as the kind of core version of the library, but the capability should be there when we release. Let's see.
So we had some more questions kind of scoot in, and we also have another page full, four more on the next page or something.
Okay. So we covered the. Let's see. Let's just go over to the next page. When will YouTube have high-quality content videos? Now mainly contains low-quality content. YouTube now mainly contains low-quality content. So actually, the way this works is quite interesting, and a lot of people don't necessarily realize it. So when we integrate, when you upload your content to YouTube, we actually ask you to upload as high resolution as you possibly can. And in fact, we support 4K. Right now, and this is something that it's not quite there in your living room probably, but when it comes, we'll be ready. On top of that, we actually have search parameters. So this is where if you're an API user and say you only want to have HD content in your application, there's actually a search param that narrows down the list of content to HD only. Yep. So if you don't like some of the old cat videos that we have on YouTube, and I know our PRs.
Why you gotta be like that?
Because YouTube is more than cat videos. So if you want to restrict the search results in your application, you can totally do that. And then again, if you upload content, produce content, we actually like high resolution, and we'll transcode it down to resolutions that work on various devices, mobile devices, for example. When you guys are ready to pursue all the different mobile platforms out there, we'll make sure that it works correctly. But historically, not all content was HD. I mean, YouTube has been around for a while, but definitely you can restrict the search results using the API to HD content only, and then you will live in an HD world. You will never see a low-resolution video.
I was a little bit lost about this question because there's like three things going on. There's one, do we show high quality videos in the YouTube player? And the answer is, of course, yes. The second thing is, does the API, return, videos that are high quality, references to them? And the answer is yes. And the third is, do we allow raw access to the high quality videos? And the answer is no, because our content partners wouldn't like that so much.
Yeah, as far as the video playback, this is something that comes up every once in a while. When folks want to, say, force HD for whatever reason on an embed that is of a small size, where it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So this is where we in AS2 player actually we used to support an HD param, which would attempt to play HD. Now what we are actually doing is something that it's slightly different, where we would like to kind of be intelligent about the playback and make the best determination based on the number of factors. If you really feel like you have to have HD and you don't actually have an embed that has the height of 720p, so actually won't be real HD. But if you really have to do that, you can still use the API. So you can actually set the suggested playback quality. And this is something that we support in our iframe API, which, by the way, is now the supported API for the YouTube player. You can actually set it and try to override it there. So that's it's a good question.
Yeah.
Any other questions, JJ, that we should cover?
I'm looking. It says here's one that looks like it just disappeared. The link object of the movies feed in the YouTube API contains invalid links, and it looks like some PHP. So there's entry sub-0 link self leads to a 404 error. Is there something I'm missing? Anyway, great API. I love the second half of that sentence. I'm a total sucker for flattery.
Yeah, I think it would be great to get some more info on the forum. Ideally, maybe the response, the video ID. The video always ID helps us so that we can try to debug it.
Definitely the video ID and posting it to our forum, we could probably debug that. Yeah.
JJ, I have a question.
Yeah.
And I forgot to add it to the moderator. And my question is, you ready?
Yeah.
You're really ready. Okay, the question is YouTube developer relations hiring?
That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. So yes, YouTube developer relations is hiring, and so if you're as good looking and fast with email as Yadek is, or maybe even if you're not as good at email as Yadek is, we're definitely interested in talking with you. In fact, developer relations across all of Google is hiring, and we're also hiring software engineers like crazy. So, send me email directly. We get referrals, bonuses and stuff. But yes, so, and I would say that of all the 15 billion startups I've worked for, Google's not a startup, but Google's the best company I've ever worked for. So I like it here.
It's a good question. Good answer, JJ.
Hey,
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I think we are out of time, so we'll probably wrap it up for today.
Vidcaster, thank you guys for coming, Kieran and Jiang.
Thanks for that.
It was awesome.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you next week.